Well, uh, unrelated to my sponsorship on this case, my NAS is dead already. Oh boy. I should know better, but I apparently am stupid. So, typical Kingston HyperX memory. This stuff passed testing previously, but apparently this stick is now dead. I don't know. Mem test was throwing errors. The computer was freezing, and I was like, alright, well, I guess I better check my memory. Well, the memory failed. I replaced it with some slow OEM whatever stuff. It's whatever. Figure out everything's all good. And more freezing. Well, turns out that the motherboard was so jealous that the memory got to die that it's failing too. It's my fault for buying MSI. I don't really like MSI motherboards. I never really have. But the motherboard, God. So it would just randomly freeze, and the freezes kept getting worse and worse. Initially when I got it, I had it on my bench. There's a video that eventually is going to make its way out of me updating. Well, I was not updating the BIOS. Me running a Cinebench test before I update the BIOS because the CPU is used, and I wanted to make sure the CPU is good. So I knew this thing was able to boot into Windows and did a BIOS update just fine. Updated to the latest BIOS, even though it really wasn't that far out of date. But yeah, so I thought, through this process of everything not working and freezing still, it's like, all right, do I have bad memory? Is the CPU actually bad? It was a used AMD CPU that I got from somebody, so it's like, I don't really like used AMD CPUs. Intel CPUs almost never fail. AMD's slightly higher chance. But as far as I can tell, it's not the CPU, because I ended up breaking down and installing Windows on this. And I'm not, I was just thinking maybe I'll boot it up a show, but I'm not going to bother. It's just too unstable. Got Windows installed. Windows tried to install some of the drivers and stuff. And next thing you know, it's crashing again. And it's throwing errors on the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth is causing the PC to crash and reboot. And you could say, oh, well, it might be the drivers in Windows. But the thing is, it was doing the exact same behavior with TrueNAS, although I guess it wasn't rebooting. Would have been nice if it would have rebooted. Because at least then if it rebooted, I'd still be able to use the system. But yeah, so apparently the Bluetooth on this motherboard is just shot, which is frustrating because brand new board. But normally I wouldn't buy MSI. I just went with this particular board because it was AM4 and it had nearly everything I wanted. I didn't really want front-facing USB and SATA ports, but it had the X16 and X4 slots that I needed. Had M.2. It would have had enough SATA ports to finish off the ports in this if I would have gone that route. But yeah, so this board's going back to B&H, and I have to pick a new motherboard now because I'm just so pissed off with this thing right now. Basically, I spent the whole weekend fighting with this, doing everything I can. I gotta quit doing that. I gotta do what my customers do. A lot of times when people buy stuff from me, they're like, oh, well, it's the part I bought for you that's clearly bad, so I'm just gonna send it back. When it seems like when I get stuff, it's always the part that I bought that's bad. But I'll spend 2-3 days troubleshooting everything to the nth degree, and I thought maybe the SATA cables were bad. Bad SATA cables can cause a computer blue screen, but literally this is down to the CPU, a single stick of memory, which I tried different slots, and the M.2 drive. But when Windows is blue screening and it's blaming the Bluetooth drivers, or the device, that is, it's like, what else do you do? So, I guess this does mean that gotta get another build video out of me. But someone's gonna have to recommend a good motherboard for me, cause yeah, this 5700G, I don't know what's gonna happen to that yet. AMD just doesn't have a way to test CPUs, so I don't think it's possible for a CPU to kill the motherboard. If the CPU is bad, I think what I would see is like bad memory channels or PCI Express lanes that aren't working. But yeah, so oh well, I need suggestions for motherboards now. I do have an i7-8700 sitting around that I could use. Otherwise, I was just looking at potentially getting a 13th gen i3. But I might go with 8700. I was just looking at motherboard options for that though, and there's not something available that kind of meets what I want. Because I need an X16 and an X4. Really what I would love to have is two X8s, but that don't exist. At least for consumer boards. So, I don't know. I guess let me know what you think, and then yeah, time for round 2 here eventually.